Speaking of Rene Paquette and her show Oral Sessions, Rene had a special guest on her podcast this week. She had the motherfucking man on her podcast. And no, I'm not talking about Becky Lynch. I'm talking about TK himself, Mr. Tony Khan, president of AEW, general manager, whatever the fuck you want to call him. I always love listening to Tony Khan interviews because he sounds like such a nerd. Everything he says, he just sounds like a giant wrestling nerd, which is great. I love hearing that. I would rather hear from an owner that's a fan of this at the same time and kind of wears that on his sleeve. So it's always good to listen to those. Plus, I always love listening to podcasts with owners and bosses and such where you can kind of get the insight from that point of view. I've always just been attracted to like the business side of it. I think it's fun and interesting. So it's great to listen to that in podcast form. Rene had a great interview with Tony here. A lot of the same stuff Tony said in other interviews before. But on the newer side of things, there's this weird little alliance that AEW's had with Impact Wrestling. And so far it's been working out, but why, right? Why the fuck would you even... Anyway, so in this clip here, Rene asks Tony Khan how the whole Impact relationship got started, and Tony broke it down. Check it out.
Okay, so now the deal with Impact, how did this come about? What was the decision going into like, all right, we're going to work together with Impact. We've got the Good Brothers running in.
It was Kenny's idea. He asked me about it, and I love good ideas, and I don't do every idea. I try not to do the bad ones. And like I said, that's been something I try to do a better job of. And also, I don't do every good one. Sometimes because I don't realize they're good because I'm not perfect. I make a lot of mistakes too. And I think that sometimes there are also good ones that just don't fit. Like, that's a great idea. You can't do it because that person's already doing this, or I can't do it because we have another plan that we're locked into. This was something Kenny brought up that I thought was a great idea. And he put a lot of time and thought into it. And I give 100% of the credit to Kenny.
Then Rene asked if Tony's going to continue to be an on-air character. You know, we've seen Tony a couple times now doing the skits with Impact with Tony Schiavone, and then he's appeared backstage a couple times in AEW. So it really was sort of concerning to some people that don't want to see that on-air owner being the boss on TV kind of thing now. So here's what Tony had to say about that.
When are we going to get to see Tony Khan as a regular on-air personality? Is that something you ever want to do?
No, it's not. And I've come as close to doing it as I will. I made a big exception coming out, and I thought it was the right thing to do, to be there on behalf of the company to express for everybody how much Brody meant to us. And I wanted to pay the highest respect to him that I could, and to his family, and to Amanda and Brody, and be there for them. But other than that, I've never come out and done that in that role. Occasionally, because of the story with Impact, there'll be times where I think it makes sense. Like Matt and Nick were this past week, for example, they were waiting to be introduced by Don. Instead, Don brought out Anderson and Gallows, the Good Brothers. So Matt and Nick were standing there. Where would they watch this? Well, they were standing right by the curtain. They would go to Gorilla, and they would stand there with me, and I'm not going to be thrilled about it either. I'm not surprised because I knew what he was. If that makes sense, like that's why I looked at him and said, "Are you surprised?" They should have expected this from Kenny by now, but I'm not. I don't want to do that, and we have a limited amount of TV time, and we have a great roster, and there's a lot of other people that can be featured. And frankly, the character of the general manager doesn't need to be featured on TV a lot. You don't see I am the general manager of a Premier League team. You don't see me on NBC very much.
And that was Oral Sessions with Rene Paquette. And you can check out that podcast every Tuesday, dropping on anywhere you find your podcast. I highly recommend Renee's show. She does a great show, and like I said, Renee's just a peach, right? How can you hate her?